one of the reasons I wanted to walk away from football is because I felt so tired of having to prove myself over and over again. And I had such an up and down career. I lost my starting job 5 different times. I blew my knee out one time. And that 8th and final year before I walked away, like I lost my starting job for the 5th time in my career, and they just gave it to a younger guy. And I just remember being like, I'm just tired of having to prove myself. And that was part of the reason I went and traveled the country. I was like, I'm just going to go explore my freedom, do what I want to do for once. And now I found myself getting back into the world, and it's like the ego needs this this something to feel important, to feel relevant. Like if we're not creating something of value, then like who are we to the world? And so there's this story of having to prove myself that's kind of creeping back in. And I think it's just innately deep, and like it's part of the reason I reached such high levels of success in football is because it's such a
Yeah.
part of my makeup. And it is a valuable asset to show up and get me to work hard and create things. But it's really about that balance of not feeling like I'm doing it to prove my worth, but knowing that
Mm.
I am innately worthy, and I'm not doing this to feel any more important in the world, but I'm doing it to serve and help others. And I think
Yeah.
that is keeps coming back to that as what helps me navigate all of these kind of the things I'm working through.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Joe Hawley. Joe spent 8 years in the NFL, and leaving on his own terms, he went and traveled the world for 2 years to kind of figure out what's next. He then created the Härt Collective, an organization for men who have left professional sports and left football and are trying to figure out their purpose. You know, in these conversations, we don't talk a lot about career, a lot about um, uh, past professions or the prowess that we've accomplished, all these things, because it's a space to just be. But one of the things that we talked about in this conversation was this idea that not only he is leading this organization feels, but also that I felt when I left the engineering career to become a teacher and trying to figure out, is this the right thing? Is this my purpose? What next? I don't know what careers you're in out there who's listening, but I'm hoping that as you think about where you are today, I'm hoping you get to get up every day fully living out your purpose and your passion. You know, some people never find their thing that they're really excited about doing, but they keep doing because they have to do to provide. One of the things I want to invite you to think about today is, what is the mask that you have to wear to show up every day in the work that you do? Hopefully, it's work that fulfills you, maybe financially, maybe in the heart wise. But the other part of it is, what are the things you don't get to talk about? What are the things behind the mask? And so when we make these masks, we want you also to know what that feels like. We invite you to go make a mask. You can do that at 100kmasks.com. You can go to the website, make a mask anonymously, and share it with somebody. If this podcast speaks to you, if what you hear in this conversation inspires you, please share with somebody. If you know somebody who is trying to find their purpose and passion and trying to live every day on a mission of service to others, or on a mission of service to their own family or to their own self, we invite you to share this podcast with us, with them. Give us a review so others can find this podcast as well. That's the easiest way for people to find us. And in this really new and different intro, I want to tell you about a non-sponsor sponsor. I mean, imagine most podcasts have these sponsors, but we have a non-sponsor sponsor that I want to tell you about. And it's about this purpose, passion project that I'm working on with Ever Forward. So this is Ever Forward Club The Adventure. It's a card game. We're super excited about it. And right now, we are trying to purchase decks of these cards for teachers who are starting school back up right now, who are in the fall going to need to be building community with their students. Our goal is to sponsor between 300 and 400 teachers who will receive this, that they could use with their students. They'll get access to a webinar that we're going to create so that they can use it. And we invite you to be a part of this adventure with us. Get one for yourself and your family, for your friends. kind of the conversation we have here in the Taking Off the Mask podcast is what we do in the Ever Forward Club. And what we try to do is put the Ever Forward Club as much as we could in this box. It's part adventure, it's deep connection, and it's an opportunity for people to realize that they're not alone. You can find the link to get one of these or buy one for teachers or even sponsor a whole school in the show notes. It's an Indiegogo campaign, and we look forward to you being a part of this movement with us. Thank you for listening to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's do it. Here we go, Joe. You ready?
Here we go.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm glad you've joined us. Today, our guest is Joe Hawley. Listen, Joe, what I like to do with our guests is have them to introduce themselves. So how about you just tell the world a little bit about you, just introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Cool, man. Yeah, Ashanti, thanks for having me, man. It's really good to see your face. Yeah, my name is Joe Hawley. A lot of experiences, a lot of life experiences, a lot of stories of who I am. Played football in the NFL for 8 seasons, but with both the Atlanta Falcons and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When I walked away, like most former athletes, it was a really big transition. Got a little bit jolted by the experience of losing this aspect of which was such a big part of the story of who I was. My identity was wrapped up in it, and went through a huge transition, life transition, not just football, but I went through a big breakup at the same time. Ended up um, going on a road trip, gave away all my stuff to charity, bought a van, rescued a dog, and went on this road trip to really find out who I was on a deeper level. That experience was supposed to be a couple months. It turned into almost 2 years. And on that journey, I found, some deeper levels of who I am, like we're going to talk about today, this mask that we wear. I think, especially as an athlete, that was a big mask that I was wearing to the world. And a lot of the challenges of, not only was that the mask I was wearing, but that was the mask that people had put on me as well. And so the identity of who I was and the people that I loved the most had to navigate those relationships as well. Ended up walking away from the game, went on that road trip for a couple years and ended up still questioning what's my purpose, what am I here to do? And through that transition process, realized, how needed it is to how I feel called to support my brotherhood of former athletes in that journey because it is so challenging. I was, a select few of guys that was actually walking away on my own terms. So I can only imagine how much more challenging it would have been if the game was taken away from me for whatever reason. And so I'm focused now on building community, providing support to former male professional athletes to help support them on the journey of finding themselves in a deeper way, deeper purpose in life. And that's called the Härt Collective. And that's what I'm working on now, and where I'm at in life. Also enjoy, doing startup investing, and I do some coaching and some speaking and all that good stuff as well. And really appreciate you having me on, man, and super stoked about the conversation we're about to have.
Oh man, thank you for sharing the journey of like how you got to starting the Härt Collective. I think that is like that creating what you kind of probably wish you had, right? And I think it sounds like you were looking for what do I do in this new transition and not having any answers, and then finding some answers and saying, well, maybe somebody else can benefit from this what I've learned. That is
Yeah, I think
beautiful.
that's any good entrepreneur. Any good entrepreneur really sees a need, right? And then they go fill that need. And I've it's a felt experience for me, and realizing like if I would have had community, because I joined a few different communities while I was on the road. One of them being Every Man, which is where we met, and getting to know the founders and the group that is, and the work that they're doing in the world, and this men's emotional health and emotional intelligence work. And then joining a couple different communities and just being surrounded by like-minded people who are focused on this self-development path of self-discovery and self-realization, and realizing if I had a community of former athletes when I first left the game, like how profound that would have been. And I started looking around, and there really isn't anything out there like that. I think even the major sports leagues, especially the NFL, I mean, they try and provide resources, but it's really revolved around what we're going to do next, right? We need to figure, like, to solve the issue, we need to find something for these guys to do. but none of it's really solving the issue of how do we be, right? How do we know who we are on a deeper level? And I think that's the journey that really matters. And so that's what I'm trying to provide for this really high performing, high achieving community. These guys are really special at a deep foundational level of the ability for them to handle failure, to question the stories, to show up, and the mental toughness, the discipline. And so really bringing them together, I truly believe that together we can really have a positive impact in the world, and I'm really excited about that journey.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you said that part because I also like how do we be, right? And I think that when when I started Ever Forward as a mentoring program, I was a teacher, but I was trying to figure out how to like reach these students in a deeper way. And what I ended up creating was like what I think I had been searching for since I was in high school myself, like a place where all of the stuff that was going on with me that I could talk about and not feel less than a man, not feel like I wasn't tough and like whatever my community. I grew up in Oakland, right? Like there's rules of masculinity and manhood, right? And I was like, well, you can't talk about it because no one talks about it. So therefore, you bottle it up. And I think that what I began to
Mm,
see, it took me, it took me, it was way more than 2 years of that journey of like trying to figure it out. I mean, it was like long, long time from the time I left high school till like I was creating that thing, but it was still there was a calling that was happening inside, and I think when we talk about entrepreneurs, like you find a need and you find a way to serve that need. And I imagine now as an investor, I mean, I didn't even ask this question, but I didn't intend to. But thank you for mentioning it. Maybe when you were talking to founders, I imagine that's an important question, or it comes up, right? Like, why did you start this thing? What is the right? Because when it's personal, it's different than between I just want to build it so I can sell it so I can become rich, and maybe that is the reason for some. But like when it's personal, I think you may find more investment in their dedication to it. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, I think if your intention of starting a business is to make money, I just don't think it's like what's the deeper meaning. And what I've learned as an investor is everybody has a good idea. I think the executing the idea is really where the challenge lies, right? Because you're going to come
yeah,
up against challenges, failures. How do you handle that? So as an investor, it's really about investing in the person and their conviction around the idea. And is it going to make the world a better place or is it not, right? Because I think there's not enough room for people that just want to make money, right? Like it's how can we shift the collective narrative? How can we make the world a better place? And that doesn't mean like just nonprofit model or saving the world or cleaning up the world's like plastic and stuff like that. But like how is it going to show up and make the world a better place? Like I invested in this company called Opus, and they're creating it's a full immersion sound healing bed that uses vibration and sound canceling headphones to like do these guided meditations that drops you into this like visceral reprogramming space, and they're like
nice.
marketing it as kind of the Peloton of emotional fitness, right? Like that's a huge opportunity. It's a really cool project, and it's really the guys are focused on how can we help people live more abundant lives through their mental and emotional health. Like that is something that can both make a lot of money and serve humanity in a big way. And so that's really the projects I'm focusing on.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic, brother. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that because I definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
let
great.
you know when I
Okay.
get one.
All right. Well, look, how about so, this work today is us kind of like jumping into like a deeper connection, like you said, you mentioned we met at
Mm,
Everyman in Joshua Tree. That was like my first time in Joshua Tree. I'm from California, had never been there. And I'm glad that we are still connected, like, and that was a really powerful experience for me. And I'm excited that we get to now go into this mask work. This is the work that I came there trying to do that
yeah.
work for myself, like take off my own mask and like just just be. That's what I was really trying to do. And for some people that's scary, right? It's scary when you see men just able to let themselves, and for some it's like, oh, I've been waiting for this, right? And so I'm glad
Yeah.
that that
It's like a
that
breath of fresh air.
it is a breath of fresh in the national forest of National Park of Joshua Tree for sure. Um, Well, we're gonna have these
Yeah.
masks, and so here's how we do it. So for those of you out there who have not made a mask, you can make one digitally, anonymously at 100kmasks.com, and that is a way that you can be a part of what we're gonna do right now. So you don't have to share yours out loud, but Joe and I are gonna share ours publicly right now in this conversation. So, Joe, we always let the guests decide who goes first. So either you go first or I go first, and we'll just share the front and then alternate, and then we'll go to the back after that.
Oh, you're putting the pressure on. Well,
Well, you can tell
um,
me. Do you tell me to go first, or
let's let
you?
you go first. You go first.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. Do
yeah,
you do your
yeah.
mask every time?
I do. I
Okay.
have them.
Yeah.
Like what I've
Give
been
me.
realizing
Yeah.
is, it's a great, it's a great
You're
question
working
because
through
I
a lot
was
of different masks.
yeah, I think I probably should take pictures of them because they're like usually I'll have like notes from the conversation on the outside, and then on the inside I have the mask. So the light is kind of off, and so the notes from the conversation is I'm like getting nuggets and learning and things I want to just reflect on later. I write that on the outside, so every interview has a mask usually. All right, well you told me to go first, so
I love it. How many Ashanti's wearing multiple masks. He's trying to remove them all.
oh man, I do. I got lots of masks. I mean, not only let me show you with me one of my newest masks. This is one of my newest masks. This is a
Ooh,
wha- this is a
that's dope.
luchador, a wrestler. His original name is Mil Máscaras, Like this is his more traditional
Yeah.
mask with the M on it. That stands for Mil
Oh, I love
Máscaras
it.
is like 1,000 masks. He was the man of 1,000 masks. And he's like the he's like this figure in our work because we talk about masks all the time. And you're right, I do have many, not only literal physical masks, but like I have masks that I don't really that the emotional masks, right? Like emotional masks, right? Like
Mm, yeah.
and the ones
The
that we're gonna talk
protectors.
about now because this is and I think I try and before each one I'm trying to like saying okay what mask is present right now, right? Because you imagine I've made for the last 3 years, I've made hundreds of masks. And man, okay, that's another story I gotta think about telling you. We had an intern once who, when I go do workshops, I've done hundreds of workshops. And this intern was organizing data and putting numbers and counting up cards. And at one time I went into the office and there was a pile of masks on the side. And I'm like, I said, those look familiar. I said, why are those masks on the side? And she was like, oh, well, I pulled all your masks out. And I was like, why? Why? Why did you do that? And the idea, her mind said, well, you've already made one. We don't need to have them in every one. I'm like, but every time I make one, it's different. And at that point, it was a pile of masks. So I didn't know where they went. So I really felt like something. I don't know what I felt. I didn't have a right word because it wasn't upset. That it was more like I felt like I had disconnected from all those people who had made masks. Because when they make a mask in a workshop, I make one with them. Like I'm not just the overseer of people
Mm,
making masks. Like I'm making one with you because I want to feel what I want to push myself to feel what you may be feeling. Anyway, that's just this
mm.
journey of making lots of masks. But here's mine.
Yeah, it's
Here's
creating
the
that
front.
commonality, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Okay. Well, here we go. Here we go. This is the one I drew today. And this is the words I wrote. I wrote four of them this time. I wrote caring, funny, hardworking, and serious. And caring is actually one that I've only recently started writing. Ironically, I was on a show with a man who said caring, and I'm like, I think I'm caring. I think I try and show I'm caring, but I never wrote it. And I was like, why don't I write caring? And I've been adding caring in lately, and it feels really good because it's actually something I really do try and show. But because I'm so serious and hardworking,
Mm,
sometimes caring may I'm in my mind, in my heart, I'm showing that I'm caring, right? When I'm like trying to support a young person or trying to support a teen person, I'm like, but it comes out because I'm so serious and hardworking that it seems sometimes it's made just like more rough. It's like the the the, the tiger,
mm.
the lion who grabs the cub by the head. He's not hurting the cub, He knows he's not hurting the cub, but on the outside, you're like, oh my god, he's trying to kill the cub. Um, yeah. So those are those. That's the front of my mask.
Okay. Love it. I love the little paradox of the hardworking carrying funny. Would you say funny and serious?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
ands.
And those can get tricky, right? As when you're
Mm,
leading people too, right? Because if you try and keep things light, so you may try and say it in a funny way, but you're actually pretty serious. People could miss that you're actually trying to move the thing along. Like I've had that happen before,
yeah,
where
yep,
trying to
all
move.
the time.
You're saying, "Hey, hey, what's going on with that thing?" And I kind of laugh about it, but in my mind, I'm being serious, but it's coming out as more in humor. And then 2 weeks later, the thing
Mm,
is happening again. I'm like, "Hey, we talked about that thing a couple of weeks ago," and you realize that because sometimes I'm trying to keep it light, the serious part doesn't get seen, and so it has how you dance between having room for both of those. And so those are, yeah, it's things I'm constantly thinking about.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Are we gonna go over the back of your mask too, or am I
Oh,
gonna go to the
you're
front
gonna
of
do
my
you
mask?
do your front. You do your front. We'll alternate. We'll alternate.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful mask there. I got some spiky hair because I live life on fire. And my eyes, I kinda screwed up. I got poked in the eye there. But I got happy, calm, calm and put together, and funny. I like being funny. I like playing and keeping it light. So we had something in common there. All very
Nice.
positive emotions though.
That's cool. Thank you for that, man. Thank you for sharing.
Mm,
All right, well, let's take a deep breath because now we're gonna move to the back. The back.
all
Okay, I'm
right.
gonna go. I'm gonna go. And I wrote it kind of funny. I'm gonna show you how I wrote it and why. Uh, so I wrote it like this. I wrote fear, and these lines actually go to fear. I'll tell you about them in a second. And then I wrote sadness and trauma, more from like childhood trauma. And the reason I wrote fear with the lines is lately I've been like if I think about fear of, like I have fear of several things, and I used to only write fear of failure, right? And I would write fear of failure, and I would leave it. And then the other day I was dealing with something, and I realized, but maybe I'm even afraid of success sometimes, right? And maybe I'm afraid of like
Mhm.
being too much, and maybe I'm not maybe let me take that word out. And I'm afraid of success sometimes, and I'm afraid of bragging. People, like when I share stuff on social media, I feel like I'm bragging, so I don't want to share it. So I fear like people are gonna say that you're showing off, like fear of like being too much, right? The beer, like, and I realize that
Mm,
there's lots of fears that block me from, I think sometimes the things that I really say I want. And I've been working on like knowing that I'm not going to eliminate the fear, but that I want to be a little bit more fearless today than I was yesterday, right? Like I want to fear less. I want to, if I can just, knowing that it may not ever go fully 100% away, how about just today I'm going to fear a little bit less. I'm going to make that post even not worrying about what people may say, knowing that it comes from a good heart place. Um yeah, that's one that's been really like I've been really working through lately, because I think that this book I'm trying to write has been blocked by a lot of fear of being a bad writer, fear of no one liking the book, like all the
mm,
stories. It's story I tell myself. Is no one's telling me this. It's my own internal stories.
mm.
So yeah, that's the back of my
Yeah.
mask.
Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing, man. Yeah, and fear's never really the problem, right? Fear is the guiding post, and I like the quote that I really try to live by is, "On the other side of fear lies freedom." And so fear
Mm,
is the
mm,
compass, and I truly believe that the things we desire the most are on the other side of the things that we are, fearful of the most. And,
yeah.
it really comes down
Mm,
to having the courage to go after the things that scare you, right? It does, because it does take courage to question those things and to go after them and to overcome them. And I don't think we can ever, maybe we can get to a place where like nothing really scares us. I mean, maybe that's the end goal, but I think there's
mm,
always going to be something. And I think for me in my journey in life is really about figuring out what scares me,
mm.
understanding why. And those are the stories that kind of come up, and the experiences that we've had that have maybe developed those fears. Cause we're not born with that fear, right? Those things
Yeah.
are developed. and being able to go towards them and understand that they're just an illusion. They're maybe there to try and protect me from being exposed or hurt or seen, but realizing that it's okay, right? Like
Yeah.
removing the mask and showing up for who we are and going after it's really about the courage and focusing on that to go after the things that scare us the most and learning on the journey as well.
Oh, there it is. There's a learning. When you talk about that quote, I like that. The other side of fear is freedom. Um, and I really like that. And there's another one I was thinking about, but it's lost me. But thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Should I just
man.
talk about mine
Okay, here we go.
now? Okay. We got overwhelmed. We got questioning if I'm capable
Mm,
and tired of having to prove myself. And those kind of all tie into where I'm at, like in this experience of life right now. I have a lot going on. When I was traveling in the van, and I had a lot of freedom, right? I was able to do what I wanted, and it was really beautiful. But there was this side of me that wanted to have bigger impact in the world, purpose, like because I think that's an innate part of being human is like something to work towards. And I really desired that, like most transitioning athletes. And now that I found the thing, I have so many projects I'm working on, and it's
yeah.
my business, my podcast. I have two podcasts. I just had a kid. I have my relationship, traveling, the social media. Like there's just life has so much involvement, and I'm working on all these projects. So I feel very overwhelmed at times. And when I navigate that, I
Mhm.
remind myself, part of me is like, I wish I could just, you know, let it all go and go travel in the van again. And then I drop into, and this is a really cool thing, I drop into what I was feeling when I was in the van. And yeah, there was this sense of freedom and being able to drop into that and feel it. It's like, oh, that feels so good. But then if I was doing that and I gave all this up, then I would be really deeply desiring what I have now, which is purpose, is something to work towards. And so it is like the grass is always greener. So it's like, how do we find balance in the moment? And it really comes down to self-awareness for me. Like when I do feel
Mhm.
overwhelmed is usually the times when I need to slow down, find some stillness, go on a walk, quiet my mind and understand and come back to the intention of why I'm doing it. But yeah, it's very much, in the background behind the mask is like this feeling of overwhelm and showing up in the world like I have it all together and it's so easy for me and like making it look easy. But on reality, it's like this inner turmoil of like, did I bite off more than I could chew? How can I navigate this? So there's that. The questioning if I'm capable. It's it constantly on this journey of growth and getting outside your comfort zone and building bigger and bigger things. Like I look back on where I've come from with the business, with the Heart Collective. I mean, I've worked through so much of my own fear to step up as a leader doing this type of work, especially for my old kind of life and all the shifts and changes I've had internally, and being able to bring this work into kind of that hyper masculine environment and help guys on this journey of understanding themselves more and their emotions and being able to process. There is a lot of fear that I've worked through to show up in that, and then continuing to kind of step up with the new opportunities and continue to get outside my comfort zone and feeling like, am I capable of doing this, right? And questioning that. And for me, when I navigate that, it's really about trusting that this thing wants to be created through me, right? And I'm sure you can relate to this. There's a bigger purpose to it, and navigating like this thing wants to be created through me, and so it's bigger than me, and so there's this trust and this surrender of showing just continuing to show up and figuring it out day by day, but knowing that this isn't about me, it's about really serving this brotherhood. And I think when
Yeah.
I come back to that, it really allows me to just trust and show up and not be so overwhelmed and anxious with it. And then tired of having to prove myself. I think that comes back to I just got off another podcast right before this, and I was talking about my football journey and how one of the reasons I wanted to walk away from football is because I felt so tired of having to prove myself over and over again. And I had such an up and down career. I lost my starting job 5 different times. I blew my knee out one time. And that eighth and final year before I walked away, like I lost my starting job for the fifth time in my career, and they just gave it to a younger guy. And I just remember being like, I'm just tired of having to prove myself. And that was part of the reason I went and traveled the country. I was like, I'm just going to go explore my freedom, do what I want to do for once. And now I found myself getting back into the world. And it's like the ego needs this, this something to feel important, to feel relevant. Like if we're not creating something of value, then like, who are we to the world? And so there's this story of having to prove myself that's kind of creeping back in. And I think it's just innately deep in, like, it's part of the reason I reach such high levels of success in football is because it's such a
Yeah.
part of my makeup. And it is a valuable asset to show up and get me to work hard and create things. But it's really about that balance of not feeling like I'm doing it to prove my worth, but knowing that
Mm,
I am innately worthy, and I'm not doing this to feel any more important in the world, but I'm doing it to serve and help others. And I think
yeah.
that is keeps coming back to that is what helps me navigate all of these kind of the things I'm working through.
Wow, brother. Brother, that was powerful. That was beautiful. First of all, thank you. I'm looking at some notes. It was my thank you. And I think that some of the things you said, a lot of things you said resonated with me. And I think there's probably that part of like feeling overwhelmed and if I'm capable is really deeply connected to this fear of failure, right? And why I am working so
Mm,
hard, right? Like, and why I feel like so the other day I made a video. We started this. We launched this new game, this little card game, right? And I made the video about like hey, we welcome to this new game. And here's one of the reasons I made the new game. And I said in the video, like, like people always say, like, I've heard people say, Ashanti, what's gonna happen if if you leave? Because if you leave, there's gonna be no more ever forward. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. I'm not doing anything special. And I was on a call with a parent yesterday, who's a young man, whose boy, he's in the fourth grade, he's in our circle. And she was like, if I was there, if I was the director of that video, I would have made you take that part out. I'm like, well, why? She's like, because you do something special. And I think for me, like this idea of like trying to like do what I think I was put on this planet to do, like what I feel like I'm being called to do. Like I didn't when I was a first year teacher, I wasn't trying to start a nonprofit. Like I didn't think you could get more nonprofit than teaching. I was like, uh, you can make less money than teaching. Like that is that even illegal? Right? So how do you do that? You can't. I was
uh,
like, as a person who grew up poor, I wanted to be the opposite. I wanted to be rich. Like, and becoming a teacher was already a financial. I would say I'll use the word burden for the lack of a better word in the moment. Like, I knew my heart was calling me to teach. I had no problem that my heart was supposed to be there, but I didn't feel like I was being successful in a financial sense of my humanness. But when you talked about like, if I'm
mm,
capable, when I started running this nonprofit full time, like I didn't really know what I was doing. I know what the mission of the work is, but the work is paper and books and reading and IRS this and nonprofit this and donate, like all the stuff that gets in the way of why I started Ever Forward. I didn't start this to be sitting in meetings all day long. I did this to help young men find their voice and talk about what they were going through and recognize that they have permission to feel everything they're really feeling. And if they feel it is real, that's why I started this. But in order to do that, in service of doing the work I really want to do, then I have to do all this other stuff. And sometimes I feel like, oftentimes, like I don't feel very successful in the
mm,
in the stuff needed to do the stuff, right? In the mentoring,
mm,
that's my language. That's my talking to young people, having conversations with teachers and helping them become better educators. But in order to do that, I got to take care of all the contracts and all the conversation and the marketing. Like, I mean, I'm learning that I'm not supposed to do it all. That's part of the learning too, is right. Oh, Shanti,
mhm.
guess what? You're actually not
Yeah,
supposed to.
being able to
You don't
delegate
want me
those
making
tasks.
flyers. That's right. Like you said some guy set up the
Mhm,
microphone. I was like, oh, I need somebody to do that. I need somebody to who's gonna right. I know you don't want me making no flyers. Like, so luckily, like right now, I have somebody who
mm.
helps make flyers for us, right? Because you don't want to see one of my flyers. It's just not gonna be. It's gonna have all the pertinent information, but it's not gonna be so appealing. You know what I mean? And I think that that's when I'm starting to get smarter.
Mhm.
And I think when I get smarter at realizing you never were meant to do it all, you just didn't know any better. And so now, as I'm learning better,
Yeah.
I'm finding people to help. Like, look, I shouldn't be making no video. I mean, I shouldn't be doing the editing of the video. Like, I should be making videos, but I also tell myself that you already made one 2 days ago or 3 weeks ago. Like, stop, that's enough, right? And I go into my own narrative, and I think we all need that, right? In addition to what you said is like we want to have a purpose, but sometimes we just need I maybe don't need it. I find I've needed it because I grew up from so long trying to just take care of everybody else and not really taking care of what was important to me. I grew up like as as the
Yeah.
oldest of four or of three, responsible for their, making sure they do their homework and make sure they do their chores. Like I was responsible for them, right? And it wasn't in my being. I was celebrated in my doing, you know? And like you talked about, like looking for that, how do I just
Mhm.
be? Well, what happens if you never knew how to just be because you only found the only way you got the validation that you may have been looking for was because of when you did something, when you accomplished something, when you won something, when you yeah. So thank you for that, man. Thank you. You just opened up a lot of
Yeah.
thoughts in my mind as you share. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing too. Right back at you. And I think on this journey of entrepreneurship and building something, I think for me is and I think for a lot of entrepreneurs is that this stepping up as a leader and building a team is really challenging, right? And it forces you. It's such a growth path because it forces you to step up as a leader, being able to like empower others to help bring your vision to reality as well. And I think that's what real leadership is. It's not this, I'm going to hire an employee to kind of mark the tasks off and help me do these things, but I'm going to hire someone, empower them to help me make my vision a reality. And I think when you find that leadership within you, and this is what I'm working towards too, because with my community, like I've just hired 2 full-time employees and like I don't know if I would be able to do it without them. And I'm like, all I want to do is continue to hire more people because it's like, oh shit, I can get like people to help me with the stuff. But then I'm realizing like I need to actually make money to afford these people. So it's like finding that navigation. But like I love the journey of really leading and empowering people and sharing the vision that I have for what I want to create and then getting them on board and be like, "Oh, I see your vision. Let me help you do whatever I can to make that vision a reality." Like that's really an empowered team. And I think that's really the future of work too. It's like even the idea of working a 9 to 5, like we can work for companies that we enjoy and we're passionate about their vision. And if they have good leadership and they're sharing their vision in a way that makes me want to make it a reality, that is what like is going to change the culture of work and in our society as well. Is like not separating work and life, but
Mm,
making life our work, right?
yeah. Yeah. Making our life our work. Like that that and I think that me as in this work, like sometimes when I have really long days and I get home and I'm like doing, I got more stuff to do. The danger in that, I found for me the danger is that it doesn't feel like work. So I could be doing it all the time, and then like, oh wait a minute, I hit
Yeah.
that place of like you said, I want to be back on the road again. Sometimes I'm like, okay, what did I just do to myself? Did I just sign up to just be busy all the time? Like did I like where do I oh wait, you need to have some balance, right? And people like that word. It sounds easy enough, but
Yeah.
it's hard when the list of things to do is longer than the time in the day, week, month, right? Even the weekend, right?
Yeah. And that's
And I
the
think
thing
it's
too, is there's always more to do. So if you don't find time for yourself, you're gonna just keep finding more stuff to do. So it is finding that balance, right? And that's why making a list and having a routine and creating space for yourself and
yeah,
stillness and taking days off when you need them. Like all like the work is gonna be there. And there's always gonna be
yeah.
more stuff to do, and there's always gonna be more stuff to mark off the list. And if you just allow the list to control you, then you're never gonna actually enjoy it, right? And I think
Yeah.
enjoying it and bringing that energy is really important to the work that we are doing. Is because when we bring that positive energy and we remember why we're doing it, that kind of fills the entire project of what we're doing and the people we're interacting with. But if we're just constantly busy because there's so much to do, then that energy is going to show up and affect people too, and they're not going to be as bought in.
Oh man, yes, yes. And I think that the idea of taking days off as an entrepreneur is hard, right? Because well, if you're not doing it, then who's doing it? And hopefully you have people that you can hand it to, and they will be responsible to do it. Even if you don't show up, right? And I think I've been learning through that process of like just so, there's a dance between trusting. Okay, I'm just gonna trust that you're right. The trust part of me, which it takes a toll to trust in me, right? And I remember the other day I was talking to
Mm,
the marketing guy who was working on the game, right? And And I'd say, you know what, I don't have the capacity for that. I said it like, just in the conversation. And then I remember him saying, oh, you know what? But one thing you should do is you should do this. And I'm like, maybe I didn't say it clear. And I was like, I swear I just told him I don't have the capacity for that. And he's giving me more stuff to do. And I'm like, okay, hold on. And I'm finding my own moment in that conversation. I'm like, okay, I want to say this. I want to say this again because I think you may have thought I was like just matter of factly saying I don't have time. I don't have capacity. Like I don't have any more capacity. So either it's gonna like to change the play, or we're gonna do something different because I can't add any more on my list. Like, and it
Yeah.
was a moment that I don't think I've ever said that too much before. I would just take
Yeah,
it,
setting your own
add it to the
boundaries, right?
list.
That's so important.
Oh man, yeah.
Mm,
Well, I guess we keep growing and learning as we said. I heard a statement that says, if you don't learn the lesson the first time, the lesson will come back. So if you don't learn how to set boundaries and make time for yourself, then you're going to keep having to keep learning that lesson again, right? And I think when you learn it,
yeah.
then you begin to do things differently, right? You begin to operate differently, and yeah, I'm really thankful for that. I want to having one of these real life like behind the scenes moments because my computer just beeped and said it's at 6%. So now, which is very unprofessional, I'm gonna have to stop and plug the computer in, or otherwise we will be ending the interview
Do your
early.
thing, son.
Like it's about to hang up. It's about to hang up. It's like okay, let me figure where's the
No, no, do
charger.
your thing, son. Hurry up before it hangs up. You're against the clock.
We are against the clock. It's like it's going down. Oh, it went down to 6 right now. Good thing it wasn't like in my car or at home, which I have done before. Okay, we're back on power. All right. Well, listen,
Back in.
I
Then we
think
live
that
it.
was a. Oh, can you hear me now? I think my computer just it didn't know what to do with all that power.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
It was like, damn, look at all this juice I got.
that's amazing. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's what rest does, right? Imagine that like time, right? It's like you burning on the end of the battery, even like in our own lives, like my life, like burning at the end of the
Oh,
battery.
I want
Like the other
that
day,
juice. I want that juice.
I was trying to send this post out before midnight, sat on the chair. I was in the kitchen, trying to send this post. Okay, get the picture, put the text with it. And then all of a sudden, I hear the phone hit the floor. That it's like 4:30 in the morning. I've been in this sleep in the chair for 5 hours. Literally, my body was like, we're done. You can keep trying to write that text if you want,
You just
but guess
fell
what?
asleep mid-post?
That's
That's awesome, dude. You need
It
to
was
take
like
some more space for
11:45. It was
yourself,
like I
brother.
almost had it. I almost made it. I didn't make it to midnight. I didn't get it out. So I was like, man, well, sometimes you don't have no juice in the battery. I think I do. I think I spend more time charging
Yeah.
my phone than I do my own self.
Oof, that's powerful. Yeah,
Yeah,
you definitely need to find some time to recharge because you can only if you're going and trying to fill other people's cups with an empty cup, what are you filling them up with, right? And I think
yeah,
it's really important for us to redefine what it means to work hard and get more into flow states, which is about making sure that you have the energy capacity to show up. And if you don't, finding time and space so that you can show up more fully when you do, right? Because then you're going to actually get more done with the less amount of time.
yeah, man. Well, I think this is a good moment. I think I want. Here's what I want to do. I want to leave you room to like definitely tell folks how they can find out what you're up to, or if there's places that people can follow you, or something that you're working on that you want folks to know about. And I just want to thank you for just being here on the show with us. I really appreciate you, and I'm thankful for you. And yeah, I just want to leave this time for you to let folks know how they can stay connected to you, man. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, thanks, Ashanti. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure coming on, and I love the work you're doing, man. And just keep showing up. And it's beautiful work. It's the work that's needed. For me, I think on social, probably the best place is Instagram at joe.hawley, Hawley. I got my personal website, which is joe-hawley.com. And that's I have a blog up there. My podcast is on there. If you want to check out the podcast, it's Quantum Coffee, wherever you listen. Also, if you want to follow the Härt Collective, you can go to theheartcollective.com. That's spelled HART. And theheartcollective.com, that's a community built exclusively for former male professional athletes. But we also have a new content strategy where we host master classes and master courses to anybody that's interested. A lot of self-development content. I would actually love to have you host a master class at some point, and we can talk about that. And then Instagram, the.heart.collective. And then the podcast for the community is Life Beyond the Game, where I bring on former pro athletes to talk about their transition out of sports. So if you want to check that out as well. Also, if you want to keep in contact with me, the best way is probably through my newsletter. And you can find a link for that on my podcast or on Instagram.
And we'll link all that in the show notes. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so you can find Joe. And man, I just want to appreciate you, brother. I really thank you. And I got some great nuggets today, and even hit a moment that I just thought about that. Those times to breathe and taking time. And so I thank you for sharing about that. And I look forward to hearing about the journey as you continue in your work. And I look forward to staying connected.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely talk again soon.
Yeah. And for those of you out there, if you were inspired by what you heard today, please tell somebody about it. And if you want to make a mask, please go to 100kmasks.com. Be a part of this Million Mask movement. Now, Joe is a part of our Million Mask movement, and we're so thankful for that. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. If what you heard today you enjoyed, if you've listened to this and you found something inspiring, please like and subscribe to this podcast. That's the best way for someone to find this podcast, maybe like you did. Please tell someone about it. If you know, listen to some of our previous episodes, and if one of them rings out to you, please share it with somebody you know. We also invite people to join us in a face-to-face where they come together with another person to make a mask and talk about that mask together. There's short conversations, about 20, 30 minutes. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please send us a message, send us in the comments below, let us know that you're interested in that. And we look forward to you joining the movement of the Million Mask movement. And check out our new shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but this is our new shirt, the Million Mask movement. And so we'll have these soon available, but we look forward to you being a part of the movement and supporting our work. Please consider supporting the work that we do in Ever Forward and in the work that we do in the Million Mask movement to let people around the world realize that they're not alone. Thank you.